I am obviously on a cruise ship. I am here at the Real Estate Guys Cruise. I've been extremely busy. Yesterday, I gave 2 presentations and spoke on 2 panels. And one of them was with none other than Peter Schiff. You heard him on the show many years ago. I'll probably ask him if he wants to come back on the show. Maybe we'll record something from the cruise. Who knows? As you know, Peter and I definitely agree about the future being very much inflationary, even though we do have our disagreements on some other issues for sure. But it's been interesting hanging out with him and all of the other great speakers here. It's a very busy time on this cruise, and I just was hanging out with Tom Wheelwright, was in his presentation, and gosh, just too much to do. But we'll record some good content for you here, and I've got some good videos coming to you from this cruise and from some of my presentations here. One of the things I have been talking about here, which I think is very important for all of you listening and watching, and that is the uptick in housing inventory. Well, it's still historically low, about half of what it should be to be what was considered normal back in 2015. And of course, the population has gone up since then. So the new normal is a higher number than it was back then. But let's just go with that for simplicity's sake. We are at about half of normal numbers in terms of the housing market, although that is more than double the lowest point during the COVID era. So what does that mean to you? Well, it means that we are still in a stuck resale market with a lock-in effect where people just don't want to give up their incredible deals on their incredible mortgages. They basically went back in time by a decade and got mortgage payments in the COVID era that were literally cheaper than the mortgages you could get 10 years earlier. Not the mortgages, I mean the mortgage payment on the house, even though the house price had almost doubled during that time. So really, really an amazing, strange situation we've got with the markets now. The only people that are really selling homes are home builders, new homes, because they don't have the lock-in effect. They don't have these incredible mortgages. They have short-term money. So their dynamic is very different for their homes. And we have got some fantastic deals on new homes that we have worked out with home developers for your benefit, special financing, rate buy downs, all kinds of special stuff. And we are noticing that these builders are just a little more flexible and a little more reasonable. Of course, they're still selling homes really well. Their earnings are doing quite well overall in the macro picture, but we are able to work out some great deals. So if you're interested in taking advantage of those, go to jasonhartman.com. Make sure you are talking with your investment counselor if you have one with our company, because things change. And you know, what we told you to do 2 years ago is different than what we're going to advise you to do today. We have different teams, different providers. Some of those old relationships ain't what they used to be, as they say. You know, Yogi Berra said the future ain't what it used to be. And definitely everything is dynamic, everything is moving, everything is always changing. So be sure you talk with our team members on a regular basis so your investment counselor can guide you and make sure you're doing the right thing. Because remember, the right thing a couple of years ago is not necessarily the right thing today. Things are changing. All right. So when I talk about this lock-in effect, as we've talked about ad nauseum on prior episodes, and we talk about the people who basically benefited by going back in time 10 years during the COVID era, their mortgage payment was literally cheaper than it was 10 years earlier. But wait, there's more, because when you adjust that for inflation, it is dramatically cheaper. The example was, and I gave it to you before, $18 cheaper 10 years later for the median mortgage payment in the United States of America. But when you adjust that median mortgage payment for the official inflation rate, which is understated, very much understated, the CPI, otherwise known by me as the CP lie, okay? It is a lie, the CP lie, understating inflation through weighting, substitution, and hedonic indexing. Don't believe it. But for simplicity, we're just going with the official numbers according to the CP lie. So during that time, we had 27% inflation, making that mortgage payment not $18 cheaper, but almost $300 cheaper. Yes, amazing, amazing, amazing situation. But what did it also do? Well, it effectively, when adjusted for inflation, made the home price cheaper. Because during that 10-year period that I talk about, that home price went from $225,000 median price to $397,000. But then you have to adjust it for inflation, and it was still higher. It was dramatically higher, but not as high as we think. The real value of that house, according to the inflation adjustment, was $290,000. So what does that mean? That means in 10 years, in a 1-decade span, in 10 years, the mortgage payment went down in nominal dollars, meaning in name only, and in real dollars, it went down almost $300, but the house price still went up from $225,000 nominal dollars, or real dollars at the time, 10 years earlier, I guess you could say, to $290,000 adjusted for inflation. Now, the unadjusted price was $397,000. So you see the difference there? Over $100,000 difference, depending on whether or not you adjust for inflation. Very important to always adjust for inflation in your thinking. But what about inflation-induced debt destruction? Yes, IIDD, because I know it's a mouthful, inflation-induced debt destruction, the thing I've been teaching you for 21 years now. Well, what we have to do there is we have to not only look at the mortgage payment, which went down by almost $300, we not only have to look at the house price, which went up by almost $70,000 in inflation-adjusted terms, but now we have to look at the debt on the house, inflation-induced debt destruction. You know, I call it the double inflation arbitrage, but it's really so much more than that. It's really better than everything I tell you with the double inflation arbitrage, because the value of the property goes up, it hedges inflation very nicely. The value of the debt goes down, where inflation pays off your debt. So what did that look like? I haven't shared this component with you in the past. This is new information, because I just shared it the other day when I was giving a presentation here on the cruise. And that is this. Let's take that example. In 2011, the median house price is $225,000. Assume you get an 80% loan, meaning you put 20% down, so your loan-to-value ratio is 80-20. So that means you've got a loan amount of $180,000. Well, during that time, according to the official understated inflation numbers, remember, it's better than this in real life. We're just using official numbers, which understate inflation, meaning they understate your benefit of the inflation-induced debt destruction. Your benefit in real life is much higher than this. Okay, so we're going with the official numbers of 27% inflation. That means inflation, according to the official understated numbers, paid off, literally gave you money. It gave you $48,000 extra. Wow. Do I love income property? Because think about it. If you go to your favorite website, jasonhartman.com, your favorite website, you go there and you click on the properties page and you look at the performance of the properties, and they'll show you projected returns on pretty much every property of well over 20% annually, because income property is this beautiful multi-dimensional asset class. So you earn your return in many different ways. Well, we all know that by now, right? You've learned that. But then you add to that return on investment the inflation-induced debt destruction. And then you consider the understated benefit of that, which is in real life much higher. And you got another $50,000, $48,000 during that 10-year period. Incredible. No other asset class performs like income property. That's why it is the most historically proven asset class in the entire world. It's the most tax-favored asset class in America, and it has so many multidimensional benefits. So go to jasonhartman.com, check that out. Make sure you are working with one of our investment counselors. All of that is free to you. There's no cost. You know how we work. We just get a referral fee from the provider through our network. So use your investment counselor. Their advice can be very, very helpful to you. Just reach out through jasonhartman.com. And remember, if you're already working with one of our investment counselors, make sure you stay in touch with them, because they will update you on the dynamic nature of the different provider relationships, the marketplaces, et cetera, et cetera. So be in touch with them.